I thought you were going to bring up the Matrix phone.
Yeah,
that Neo uses.
Right? Yeah.
Press the button and it goes. Welcome to the Curiosity Public Podcast. I'm Dutch.
I'm Jules.
Dylan.
All right. I am ready to get into this week's curiosity because I do think it's very curious and very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do that, though, what are you guys drinking? Start with Dylan.
You'll never guess.
You want to give us a hint and you want us to try to guess?
Yeah. So it was probably one of the youngest bourbon we've had, and you've had it.
Oh. Is this that one you got like a local place up there?
That's right.
Home base?
You got it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow, that's good memory. All right. I can't
So is that it's home based bourbon? It's like what, like a year old or 2 years or something?
So this one was 16 months.
Wow.
Although the distillery that we're going to talk about today is actually younger than that. I've never had it, but I'm interested now. But
I don't recall thinking that was very good, the home-based stuff. It just tasted incredibly young. Has it gotten any better with some time sitting in the bottle? Or did you heat it up? Your patented heating method?
I know my patented heating method. You better not steal that.
All right, Jules. What do you got?
For me, this evening, I am back to Old Faithful Blanton's Single. I still got to get through this bottle, man.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
So nothing new, nothing extraordinary. I mean, well, this thing's always good. So.
Hey, man, that's really good. I mean, that's a really good bottle.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm cracking back into my Jefferson's Reserve.
Me too. So.
Boring.
Yeah. You know, but hey, look, when you're on lockdown, my whole goal is to get through some of these bottles that have less than half left, and this is one that's sitting here looking at me, and I really do enjoy it. I think it's phenomenal for a regular production small batch. It's very tasty.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So speaking of whiskey and tasty and all that stuff, you know, Dylan, you had a whiskey there that's aged 16 months. Your Blanton's is probably aged, 7-8 years?
Yeah.
The Jefferson's doesn't have an age statement, but I know when they first came out with this line, they were touting that one of the things they mix into it is like a 15-year-old. Of course, there's, much younger stuff mixed with it. But aging whiskey takes, obviously, time. And every year that thing is stored in a barrel, you're losing stuff to evaporation. You're having to store barrels. You're having to wait. Dylan, you've got an article that kind of talks about all this stuff, right?
There's actually 2 articles. The first one is from Forbes. It's interesting because all the articles that I give you is either like Forbes, Fortune, Fox News.
That's all you read, right? All those 3?
Of course. Anyway, the first...
Only Fs.
That's right. So Forbes, the article is titled, "Whiskey Can Teach Us a Thing or Two About Innovation." Essentially, they're talking about old school distillers versus new kids. It's always like that. It's the old versus new, every single thing. They're talking about how these new distilleries have to innovate or get crushed by the old established distilleries that are on the market. So they had to figure out ways to get around it. They had to use innovative things like UV light. You're drinking Jefferson. That's perfect because what do? They sometimes put their bourbon on ships and they call it Jefferson Ocean. Some people use smaller barrels. They use like a 25-gallon barrel to increase the surface area and try to age it faster, try to extract more of the flavors from the wood with smaller volumes. But you're getting countered by, again, the old-time distilleries like Maker's Mark with their 46, right? So Maker's Mark with 46, they put staves inside, again, as a way to cheat the time, cheat the fourth dimension. Essentially, they're talking about all of these different ways of doing it, and then all of a sudden, Cleveland Whiskey in 2019 won the gold medal at the Distilled Spirit and Cocktail Competition in San Diego County Fair. Now, the really interesting about that is that it was aged only for 6 months. That's incredible. You're able to distill and age a liquor for only 6 months and beat out the competition. That is really fascinating. There's another, I kind of mentioned that there was another article in Fortune where, again, they're talking about how all these distilleries, not just in the United States, but around the world, they're using different techniques in order to bring new flavors, but also to beat the time issue, and they do double maturation. They're putting it in Caribbean, Spanish sherry, Mexico's mezcal, and Chardonnay and Merlot wine barrels. They're putting in all these different second maturation barrels in order to cheat the time that's required to get a lot of the deep, complex flavors. So that's the issue. The question is, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this new versus old and the new way of trying to get beyond the fourth dimension?
It's fascinating, really. I mean, it's like the holy grail for whiskey. If you could make whiskey in 6 months or in a month or in a week that tastes as good as stuff that's been aged for 15 years, I mean, it's like going up to the replicator in Star Trek and say, Pappy Van Winkle 15, and it just appears and it tastes perfect, right?
But they use synthahol, though. They use synthahol.
Well, whatever. In our version of Star Trek, they don't. And you don't
Nerd alert.
You don't just order your Earl Grey tea, right? It's fascinating, right? I mean, obviously, if it tastes as good, then people are going to have struck gold if they can figure out ways to speed it up. On the other side, and this is something that I forgot to mention earlier, is have you guys heard of Buffalo Trace's Warehouse X?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of thinking about this stuff, but they're just adjusting like light, UV, temperature, humidity, and airflow. Like they're not really, I mean, that may end up speeding stuff up, but they're still taking years. I mean, their program, I think, is going to be 20 years. They're going to be experimenting with Warehouse X to try to come up with like the new awesome bourbon.
Yeah, but Buffalo Trace, they're hedging bet. They have another, I think, warehouse that's trying to do like a 50-year age.
Right.
They know that they lose a lot through the time process. So what they're doing is they're trying to control the humidity and the temperature enough so that it can last the 50 years. And so when they open up the barrel, they'll have something left over. The question is, though, do you think that you can defeat the fourth dimension? Can you cheat time?
Well, Jules, you can go ahead. I got one other brand to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, my own take on it is like innovation. Absolutely. I think that's what I like about this movement is it allows some of the younger distilleries, almost like startup, to kind of get into the marketplace and be relevant. I think that was really cool about like the Cleveland whiskey story, how they won. I believe the San Diego one's pretty prestigious award competition. So it's not like it was just like by random choice or whatever.
Was it?
I like it a lot. I think it's really cool.
It is very cool. So the one I was going to bring up is the Lost Spirits. I don't know if you guys have heard of this one. I haven't tried any of this stuff. I want to get my hands on some of it to try. But the guy that started this thing is like a researcher, and he has this room in his distillery called the Reactor, where he claims to make the equivalent of 20-year-old spirits in 6 days.
Wow.
Is it a trilithium reactor?
Yes, exactly. It does something with light. I think it's like a UV based thing, and there's wood and spirits and all this stuff. Apparently,
like
it's a very
smaller
cool
barrels too.
I don't know. I don't know, but it's apparently it's a cool place to tour. They have a good setup for visitors apparently, but they do some rums, they do some whiskey type products, they do some brandies and stuff like that. So I'm genuinely curious about this. We'll have to get our hands on a bottle and see how it stands up.
But you've tried some of these, right? You've tried these different liquors. I mean, we've tried a lot of double maturation, right? We've tried the higher surface area.
Not at like this rapid age. I mean, at least I haven't. I haven't tried it.
So I would say the closest that we did though would be, what's that one out of Texas?
Garrison Brothers?
Yeah, Garrison Brothers, yeah. So they claim to only age their stuff like, 2 or 3 years. And because of the high heat and massive temperature fluctuations, we tried it. It tastes like it's older than that. It's not my favorite stuff, but
I don't think so. I think it tasted like the year that was listed on the bottle.
You didn't think it tasted more?
I don't think so.
But compare it to that year and a half old bourbon that you're drinking right now. It definitely was darker, definitely had a lot more flavor. It wasn't refined.
I'll give you that.
It wasn't refined. It was rough around the edges, I thought, but there was a lot of flavor in it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to judge here, but I mean, I get
You
that.
are.
No, I'm not. Look, I am as objective as the next judge, but or I should say, hey, here's a reference. I'm as objective as Lance Ito.
Oh.
that takes you back, right? Here's the question: is this new age fad a hipster thing, or is it actually any good?
Is it just a fad?
Is this a fad? That's the question.
I think it's here to stay. I mean, it's something to what I was saying earlier. Well, for one, it's innovation, right? So people are always being creative and trying new things. And I think this allows them, especially for like new players, to get into a marketplace that has been predominantly taken by like the old regime, right?
And look,
and I think they have a chance, an opportunity, just because, they're not going to sit and wait for 6-8 years when they can actually produce something, say, in 3.
We have to get to
6
this point.
months.
We have to get to that point because, if we want the future of Star Trek, we have to get to this point of being able to do this stuff remotely, right? Because if you're on a star voyage, you're going to devote a whole hangar bay to storing a bunch of oak barrels and have the Jefferson Starship bourbon on your on your starship.
Whatever. Look, the question right now. I'm gonna play the
on your starship.
I'm gonna play the old man devil's advocate here. So, is this one of those things where it's a young person essentially cutting corners? We're calling it innovation, but aren't they just cutting corners, trying to figure out how to beat the system with some cockamamie scheme?
Dude, that's what all innovation
is. That's the definition with technology.
Is this cubic zirconia? Is this cubic zirconia? Is this man-made sapphire? Is this the
and
General
they all
Electric?
have their place in the market as well.
Dude, it's all about saving time. I mean, do you guys remember? We're old enough to remember when you had to get up and go change the channel on the TV. Do you guys remember that? And what did somebody do?
This will really place how old I am. Like rotary phones, dude.
Oh yeah, no, but that's not what I'm talking about.
You got burning on your fingertips.
You're messing with my metaphor here. So
dial.
Back in the day, if I wanted to change the channel, I had to get up, walk to the TV, change the channel, go back and sit down. Now, what a great innovation. I can sit there. I can save that 5 to 10 seconds by having a remote. So it's all about saving time. You
don't even have to do that. You just talk to Alexa.
Right. But it's all about saving time, right? Time is money. The greatest innovations are things that save time. Making good whiskey takes time. So as soon as somebody can come up with an innovation that doesn't require you to take that much time, that is a amazing innovation. Now, is it going to work? I'm skeptical, but I want to try it.
Not immediately off the bat, right? I mean, that's why it's innovation. I mean, it's a lot of trial and error.
Totally.
And these guys are going to be going through all of that, and they're going to get all the criticisms for doing it.
I think it'll be a superficial change. I don't think you're going to get the complexity that you will see. But everything that's on the market right now, I don't know if it's that great. I'm going to give you an anecdote, a power of one data. I was abroad and I was sitting in a bar. The guy's like, you like American bourbon and whiskeys and stuff? I said, yeah, I mean, I drink everything. And he goes, locally, we are making this innovative rye whiskey. I said, oh, that's kind of interesting because that's really popular. And he goes, yeah, like everybody loves it around here. It's like, you want to taste? I said, oh, that's great. That's very nice of you. So he gave me a little pour. I tasted it and I said, oh my God, this is terrible. This is really young. It's caustic. You can definitely taste the youth in this liquor. You know how much they were selling it for? They were selling it for $300 and they're sold out. And everybody in town thought that this was the greatest thing. And I can imagine, right? They're sitting and they're pouring this neat and they're trying to drink this down and it's basically like burning their throat. Like, oh my God, this is so great. This is amazing. And that's what I'm seeing. I think there's a novelty to it. I'm not a hater. I'm just saying, look, there's a novelty to it.
You are hating.
I really think that you cannot cheat time.
You're complaining about the fact that they sold it for $300.
Hang on, though. I bet you anything, though, after that guy poured it for you and he asked you, oh, how was it? Did you like it? You're like, oh, yeah.
You know what? I
lied to his face.
Look, I'm a Puritan.
Exactly.
I am polite. The only time I express my feelings is on this podcast. So
you're not an old man Seinfeld yet, where you just blurt out like everything that you hate.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like I'm actually sipping on the home base, right? And it's not bad. I can taste the 16 months. I've owned 2 old liquors in my life. One is a bottle that I still have, which is Rhetoric 25. And then I've had a Macallan 25 at some point in my life. And it's gone now, but it's a level of complexity that I just can't imagine could be cheated, could be changed by either double maturation or UV light or changing the humidity or putting it on a boat. I drink those. I have tons of Jefferson Ocean. I have tons of Maker's Mark stuff. I have private select things with different staves. I get that. But I'm not saying that those are necessarily terrible. It's different, but it does not replace the 25-year. It does not replace the 25-year Macallan. I can't see whatever innovation they have and whatever they do replace that 25-year Macallan. Prove me wrong.
Not yet. This sounds like I have a great technology analogy for you on this. You sound like Bill Gates when he said 640K RAM is all you need. It's like, dude, you sound like old man, Dylan. Dude, no, technology. I mean, they haven't caught up yet, obviously, and they're still just getting into this, playing with the different technology, UV, smaller barrels, whatever it is. But who knows, and who's to say that they can't eventually achieve that?
Look, you're talking to me like I'm wearing some velveteen robe, drinking my home, drinking my liquor in a cognac glass. Actually, I am doing that. I guess I'm the outlier in that I think that the new innovation provides new types of liquor, but it does not replace the old aged legacy liquors. That's my take on it.
You can't really. I mean, we don't know.
We don't know.
I don't think that we don't have the technology yet, and we haven't tried that stuff. I mean, I'm really curious to start trying some of these innovative things.
You're not understanding me. I'm doubling down. I'm telling you. You can't prove me wrong, kids. No. Look, prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong.
We are understanding you. It's a hard no because you're old man Dylan sitting in your rocking chair.
You're saying, well, I haven't tried any of them, but I know they're not good.
Exactly.
So look, I'm supporting our local young liquors. Even when I'm abroad, I'm very nice and I drink the 4-month rye whiskey.
Yeah, but if you had a choice between a 16-month bourbon and a 16-year-old bourbon, I know which one you're going to reach for.
Well, yeah, I could care less. The 16-month could be like, oh yeah, this is in a square-shaped barrel with 50,000.
That'd be a cube, not a barrel.
Oh, sorry, cube. 50,000 staves from the plants of whatever wickerberry or whatever get it from, and then infused in double maturation in bat dung liquor or something. I don't know. I'd still say pass. Give me the 16-year.
Well, I'm curious, and I think eventually we'll get our hands on one of these rapid age whiskeys, and maybe we'll have you put your money where your mouth is and see if you can
do a blind.
Do
a blind. And see which one you like better.
Yeah, I think we should do a blind.
I'm curious too. I mean, I want to try it. I genuinely want to try it.
It won the San Diego whatever. Somebody get this Cleveland thing. I want to try the 6-month thing.
Next time we get together to film, I'll make this happen. If we ever get out of this COVID lock.
So what, 6 months from now?
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned in the next 6 months for when we eventually get out of this lockdown.
Look, by that time, they'll have double the amount of liquor, right?
No, by that time, it will have aged enough for Dylan's palate.
They'll be able to add a whole more 6 months to that bourbon you're drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
It's look, oh boy, my God, in the future, it's like, oh, this is an old liquor. It's been aged for a year.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't wait.
Well, on that note, Jules, why don't you take us out?
You guys tell us what you think in comments below on YouTube. And have you guys tried any of this rapid age stuff? And let us know, too, what's out there. What brands
is Old Man Dylan?
We got to teach Old Man Dylan something or two.
Old Man Dylan's off his rocker.
Right. And we have smartphones now. Put that Motorola away.
I have my Zach
the
Morris
Motorola brick.
Yeah, I got the brick.
You still have to extend your antennas.
I still use the brick.
But also check us out on our Instagram, on our podcast channel. Hopefully that will be up and running by the time this gets out. And
stay curious.